Hello, I'm John Marshall Roberts, author of The Voice Code and Igniting Inspiration. I'm an applied behavioral scientist and a communication expert. I help people find their voice so that they can thrive in the new economy, doing work they love, helping others awaken. And if the idea of being somebody who can stand and speak your truth in a way that helps others awaken, that changes hearts and minds, if you'd like that ability, if that inspires you, then you're going to really want to pay attention to this week's video, because I'm going to offer you a never before shared or revealed Jedi mind trick that I've used throughout my life and career to have a transformational impact on people, to overcome cynical detractors and fanatics and people who are dogmatic in their beliefs and unwilling to listen. Whether it's politics, religion, sexuality, or advocacy, right? We run up against this challenge today more than ever of people who are so overwhelmed with information and so committed to defending their point of view that they are not open to changing their mind, it seems. And what I want to tell you is that it's actually relatively easy. Once you understand how to do it, it's relatively easy to win the hearts and minds of those people who seem like the biggest detractors. Now, me saying this, there's a good chance that you are now one of those detractors in relation to my message. What I'd ask you to consider, though, is that this is sort of my magic skill, okay? I launched my career with my self-published book, Igniting Inspiration, in 2008, on the wings of Obama's re-election, and I was lifted in that wave of enthusiasm that our country was going through, that rebirth. I was lifted to a place where I was a spokesman for a message that Obama brought to the world around that time, which is that cynicism is our only enemy. And within a matter of a few years, I was traveling the world being announced as the world's leading cynicism guru. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I will say that I understand, and I'm very good at helping to transform cynics into advocates. Here's the secret. It's called dynamic polarity. Okay? Dynamic polarity. If you have somebody, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you aren't a fan of Donald Trump. You maybe are even offended by his existence. Okay? And there's a lot of people who feel that way. All right? But let's just say that. And let's say that you have a family member who thinks Donald Trump is the salvation, who's going to make America great again and won't shut up about it. Right? When engaging with someone like that, step one is don't hide what your real opinions are. Step one is announce your position. Let them know that you're not a fan of Donald Trump, that you think he's the worst thing that ever happened to our country. Okay? Now, you don't have to do this in an inflammatory way, but you want to state, without hedging, your point of view. Step two is get them talking. Don't spend a lot of time talking about your own point of view. All right? That's not what this is about. Right? Your intention here is to bring the light of transformation into that relationship and ultimately into the attitudes and opinions of the person you're talking to. So what you want to do now is shift and become a listener. Really listen to their point of view. Ask questions. And as part of step two, what I want you to do is eventually stand in their shoes. This is counterintuitive, and this is where most people get tripped up. You need to, in step two, get them talking and then shift to where you're now arguing for their point of view seemingly against your own point of view. So if they're a Trump supporter and you don't like Trump, you need to be willing to step into their shoes and really start to try to understand how they see things, and then step in their shoes and look at your own thing and talk about how you can see the frustrations of all these liberals who are, whatever their gripes are, right? Who are trying to make everybody politically correct, who lack common sense, who are living in a daydream, who don't understand the problems, why a wall is necessary, whatever that is. You want to really step into the shoes of someone with that worldview and stand and just really champion their dissent against your own worldview. Now, if you're still listening, I want you to understand, this is not easy for most people to do, and I'm going to offer videos to help you do this. The shortcut is you got to understand the different worldview structures and why people think the way they do. That makes it a lot easier to step into their shoes and really look at your own point of view from theirs. This is where the judo comes in. If you do step 2 correctly, what's going to happen is they're not going to know what to do. First of all, they're going to be disarmed by your taking their point of view. Second, they're not going to know what to do with their resistance. When you announced your opposition, they got ready for a fight. But when you released your resistance, you didn't respond the way they expected. Now you've moved over to their side. What happens is that same resistance has to go somewhere. And what happens is there's an irresistible pull within them to now be the opposition by taking your point of view. Once you've done that and you've really established your own blind spots, they're going to start to feel like they've converted you, right? And then what that's going to do is release the argument in their head, right? And now what you can do is gently move back into your point of view with their point of view. So it's kind of like now you're going to be at the center. If you were here and you were here, you're now going to stand at the center, and you're going to go back and state why you still hold the point of view that you do, and say it in a way that integrates and respects the point of view that they started with. Now, if you do this, step 4 is change the subject and have fun, right? Don't expect them to show you their transformation in one conversation. What will happen with this kind of conversation is that you go through this process. They secretly start to doubt their own point of view because they see how you've accounted for theirs, and so they start to get unmoored a bit. What you want to do usually is then shift the conversation and not at all put them to a position where they have to agree with you, right? Just let it be. Just giving up any attachment to whether or not they agree with you. Just appreciate the moment and shift to something else. What will happen is this kind of conversation, then it's like dynamite on the unhealthy, polarized social ego, right? It plants a seed, or a stick of dynamite, if you will, that over time dismantles the fortress of fundamentalist thinking, right? And what will happen is next time you see them, you'll notice that their attitudes are shifted. They may not want to talk about this anymore, or when you get really good at this, you'll find them actually disowning their point of view. This isn't about being right or winning. It's about the search for truth. And if you want to be someone who can help others transform their way of seeing the world, you have to be somebody who's willing to be transformed from whatever you're currently holding on to that may not be 100% true. So if you get into a conversation like this and you make it your mission to really get people to see things your way, right, then that's not really the attitude that's going to work, and in fact it may backfire. But if you go into conversations with a point of view that you've earned through really thinking things through really caring, through really looking at the tough stuff, right? And if you've developed an attitude where you're willing to be respectful and listen to those who don't get it yet, then you can be a powerful, powerful force for change using this process, which is, again, step 1, state your point of view. Expect there to be some tension there. Be okay with that. Be authentic. Step 2, get them talking about what they believe and why they believe what they believe. Get some momentum with that, and then step into their shoes and start showing the blind spots in your own point of view that as they would see it and as you see it as well, as the world sees it. And then step 3, come back to center, come back to your point of view, reaffirm where you stand and show how it includes, transcends, but includes the point of view that you took when you were standing in their shoes. And then step 4, change the subject and let nature do the changing for you at an unconscious level as their unconscious mind seeks to sort of integrate all that passed with that dynamic polarity, with that conversation. Okay? And if you're standing for truth, and if you try this process, you're going to be a force of nature, I guarantee you. So I look forward to hearing back from you. And if you want to dive a little bit deeper, if you want to start getting really great at this, pick up my book, Igniting Inspiration, which talks about the four main worldviews that you're going to confront in the world, because once you understand those, it's like a real shorthand. In the coming weeks, I'll offer some videos where we're going to go through each of those worldviews. So I'll teach you how to do this for what we call the believer worldview, which is often associated with fundamentalist thinking in the right wing, although not always. I'm going to talk then about how to do it with the achiever worldview, which is where a lot of the Donald Trump fans and fiscal conservatives live. Not all, but that's the general worldview. And there's a whole different way to argue their point than you would for the believers. Then we're going to talk about the liberals. So if you are maybe a Trump supporter and you have a crazy liberal who won't listen to reason, or if you just have a crazy liberal in your life who just seems a little out there for you, even though you agree with their basic values, right? I'll teach you how to do this with them, and then we'll get to the Pathfinder, which is sort of the solution maker, the people who are running the show today. So we're going to dive down in a lot more specificity, and I'm also going to talk to you about the four needs that are governing these levers and pulleys that underlie this social conversation. So we've got a lot to cover. For now, why don't you practice stepping into the shoes of those who you'd like to convert, arguing against your own point of view, right, and then coming back to center and having fun with them. And why don't you just try that a few times and start seeing how your social world begins to shift and change, and how new light begins to enter in relationships that before were either boring, dead, or acrimonious. Okay, so thank you very much. Leave some comments for me if you get some results. Sign up for this channel if you haven't already, and I look forward to continuing to serve you.